luckily, in the rules of CONCACAF, if one MLS team gets CONCACAF, another MLS team benefits from it. And I'm going to send it to Connor for the Montreal game, who benefited from the other half of being CONCACAF.
Yeah, so Montreal on paper you would think they're gonna struggle. I mean, I remember the announcers talking about at some point when they had the lead, them being the last team that you would think of out of all the MLS teams to have such a great start and
Right.
grabbing the 2 goals early was definitely huge for them, and especially when they're away against the team that's I feel like pretty consistently in CCL in Saprissa, and
Hmm.
their counterattack just looked so good. Having Kyoto and Okonkwo and Bojan up top, they were really doing a great job of taking advantage of the space on the counter, like sitting back and then just hitting them hard. And it looked strong early on, but I think the biggest problems was that they just looked messy in defense. I think that there were a lot of times where it was almost just like last effort defending, where they were just clearing it off the line or making like some last ditch effort to save the ball, and just it really just it felt like they weren't going to be able to hold this up for the entire game. And I think that it really hurt them as well with all the injuries that they got. It just felt like it was just constantly guys just dropping one after another. And Henri was using his substitutions really early, so he didn't get to have too much of an impact on the game late. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. Montreal folds defensively, they concede, and then they concede again late, and then they have to settle for a 2-2, which if you had said before, like before the game had even started, that they get a 2-2 away, then that would be amazing. But just the way that they started off in the game, it just feels so disappointing for them to end with a 2-2.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's exactly what I took. And I mentioned this earlier, but there was not a minute in that game where I thought Montreal were walking away with 3 points here because of that back line. They are so shaky. And I think we mentioned this a little bit um, a few weeks ago where they have this attacking ability, and with Henri as their coach, right, they're going to be able to be clever and tricky and get some goals, but their back line is just, they're led by 38-year-old Rod Fanny. Like that in and of itself does not give anybody any ability to feel like this is it. This is how it's going to go. Like we're going to be good this time. Like no. That's not it at all. And the whole time you knew they were going to put pressure on, and you have, again, take it with a grain of salt, right? We don't have a lot of time under our legs. Um and at the same time, right, the injuries, you didn't get to sub anybody out. Um, but that being said, you can't, there are going to be times in MLS play where um, you're going to be in those situations where you got to defend a lead, and I don't see this team defending a lot of leads. They'll get a lot of leads. I don't think they'll defend a lot of them, and that's I think they're going to have a tough time at home against this team. I think Saprissa were awful today. They made so many unforced errors in the back and in the midfield. They were just really, really poor, and I don't think they come to Montreal and replay that type of game.
Yeah, I think it's funny too that if you look at the Atlanta result and then you look at the Montreal result, I think we all would say that like, oh, Atlanta had a really good result. But then you look at Montreal's and you're like, I don't know, was it really a great result? And but in the end, it's probably the same thing, if not Montreal having the better because they got 2 away goals.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. If you like, I think you mentioned this before. If you told me at the beginning of this week, Atlanta were walking away 1-1 and Montreal were walking away 2-2, I'd say Atlanta had a bad game and Montreal had a great game. But it's actually flipped.
Uh-huh.
That's real funny. All right.